Coming up next on Cordisco's Corner. That's an amazing, I'm going to read that again. At a minimum, a president whose son has publicly struggled with addiction might give the concerns of similarly situated blue-collar Americans a bit more concern. Hi, folks. Welcome to Cordisco's Corner. Unfiltered commentary. Not your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support. Hi, folks. Welcome back. For the Daily Wire, judgment matters. As Biden obsesses over Omicron, fentanyl overdoses surge. This has got a lot of numbers in it and a lot of stats, so don't roll your eyes at it, but this is a very important article. Let's read on. A week before Christmas, President Joe Biden issued a stern and apocalyptic warning to the great unvaccinated masses. You're looking at a winter of severe illness and death for the unvaccinated, for themselves, their families, and the hospitals they'll soon overwhelm. What a great Christmas message. Thanks, Joe. Thus far, the Omicron variant has almost universally produced mild or asymptomatic cases. Almost universally means 100%, or darn close. Meanwhile, a record-high pandemic of overdose deaths has swept across America largely without comment from the Biden administration, perhaps because the president's policies have worsened the death toll. From May 2020 to May 2021, America reached a deadly milestone. Over 100,000 Americans died of drug overdoses. That's a lot. The first time more than 100,000 people died in such a way. By comparison, there were about half as many overdose deaths, 57,000 and change, in May 2016. Much of the interim increase is driven by the stream of fentanyl flooding across America's uncontrolled southern border. And there's where the policy issue is. And there's others coming up as well if you read this article. Fentanyl and other synthetic opioids are involved in 64% of all overdoses. That's almost 2/3, according to CDC. Over the same period, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection seized twice as much fentanyl, which is between 80 and 100 times stronger than morphine. 80 and 100 times stronger than morphine. That's amazing to me. I didn't realize it was that powerful. And they're not real opioids. They're like oxycodone. They're very similar. They're manipulated opioids. They're fake opioids that tell your brain, your receptors in your brain, to think they're opioids to help kill pain. An amount as small as 2 milligrams of fentanyl could cause a deadly overdose. The over 11,000 pounds of fentanyl seized by border agents in fiscal year 2021 could kill 2.5 million people, or approximately 1/3 of the people on Earth. Think about that for a minute. That's just the U.S. Agents seized yet another 2,100 and change pounds of fentanyl since the beginning of fiscal year 2022, which began in October. More than enough to kill every single American citizen. It comes as little surprise that in the last year, fentanyl has exceeded traffic accidents and suicides as the leading killer of young people between 18 and 45. Our future. According to the analysis of the CDC data performed by the nonprofit group Families Against Fentanyl, almost 79,000 people died from fentanyl overdoses in 2 years. And then it goes on to give you other numbers. I'm not going to read all of this, but the DEA has seized 2.4 million fentanyl-laced imitation prescription pills so far this year. And it's the drug cartels in Mexico. Mexican criminal drug networks are harnessing the perfect drug trafficking tool, social media applications that are available on every smartphone. Yet the problem goes well beyond prescription drugs. This year, officials have discovered traces of fentanyl in a growing number of narcotics, including heroin, cocaine, and marijuana. Between July and November, 39 people in the state of Connecticut overdosed from marijuana that secretly contained tiny specks of fentanyl. While marijuana carries mental and physical health risks, overdose is virtually unheard of until the narcotic is married to fentanyl. Fentanyl's journey to America began in its countries of origin, frequently China or India, then comes to Mexico, where transnational criminal gangs assemble into pills or carried across the border in powder form. Our border wall, our stricter border enforcement will curtail some of the surge, but President Biden has made it substantially easier for illegal cargo and illegal aliens to cross the border. And they're talking about the number of getaways, the people that get through. I won't read the whole thing, but the last sentence in the paragraph, by the end of December, it will be 600,000 gotaways. Despite the surge in border crossings, President Biden's policies cut deportations by 90% over pre-pandemic levels. And that decision carries national consequences. While the fentanyl surge begins at the U.S. border with Mexico, it quickly metastasizes through the entire nation as transnational drug traffickers pump fentanyl through the nation's arteries. In all, 45 states experienced more deaths by overdose this year than last year. And this is interesting. The geographic dispersed states as Vermont, Mississippi, and California, those are entirely different states, and yet they have huge increases. So this isn't a regional or a cultural thing. Unbelievable. Biden responded by issuing a brief statement about overdose deaths in November, and he has moved to classify fentanyl hallucinogens as a Schedule I drug, which would mean they have no medical use and would be subject to stiffer criminal penalties. I don't know about no medical use. Technically, you can get heroin with a prescription, but I digress. But at the behest of nearly 100 left-wing groups, he exempted fentanyl from some of the mandatory minimum sentences that apply to similar drugs. And here comes the crap. The racially disparate enforcement of drug laws against communities of color will continue under the Biden drug proposal. So he pulled back because it's racist. Many complain that jailing drug dealers might leave inmates without a job. Even if individuals receive shorter sentences than the mandatory minimum under Biden's proposal, they will still be in prison and risk being trapped in a vicious cycle of incarceration, which impacts an individual's access to housing, education, employment, health services, food assistance programs, and more. It's insane. Absolutely insane. I'm just going to breeze through a lot of this. You can stop the video. A new approach to this catastrophe is needed. Of course it is. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like the last paragraph says a lot. That new approach will require closing America's borders, standing up to well-funded left-wing interest groups, and imprisoning social pariahs regardless of baseless cries of institutional racism. At a minimum, a president whose son has publicly struggled with addiction might give the concerns of similarly situated blue-collar Americans a bit more concern. That is the paragraph that stands out. Presidential wisdom often hinges on which issues to focus on and which one to minimize. It may explain why America is in such dire trouble during the presidency of Joe Biden, who seems addicted to poor judgment. That's a well-written paragraph. A president whose son has publicly struggled with addiction might give the concerns of similarly situated blue-collar Americans a bit more concern. I won't go into detail. I lost a family member through drugs. Indirectly through drugs, but nonetheless through drugs. And I saw the pain and suffering that caused to a lot of people in my family that have never recovered from it. So I know what it's like. It wasn't fentanyl, but it doesn't really matter. That's an amazing. I'm going to read that again. At a minimum, a president whose son has publicly struggled with addiction might give the concerns of similarly situated blue-collar Americans a bit more concern. What a well-written sentence. Unbelievable. So here we are. We can't do what government can do, the little bit they can do to help curb this by making the border crossings much stricter, enforcement, closing the border if you have to. It's incredible. And we can't have stiff penalties because that disproportionately hurts non-white people. I'd like to see the breakdown of the overdoses by race. That would be interesting. Not that it matters. I bet you the vast majority of it are white. That's just my guess. So here we are. Biden voters. I'll say it again over and over and over and over. Biden voters, this is what you voted for. When you vote against somebody and not for somebody, this is what you end up with. Are you happy? Are you glad? I bet you all those dead people really appreciate the fact that Donald Trump isn't president anymore. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Ashamed. Until next time, goodbye and good luck.